God did not die on the cross. God cannot die. Now, if I can justify this language in hymnody, it'd be like this. We say, whatever can be ascribed to one nature of Christ, to the divine nature, to the human nature, can equally be used to describe the person. And certainly the one whom we embrace as God incarnate, the one who is the God-man, died on the cross. But he died touching his human nature, not his divine nature. Think for a moment, just for one moment, of what would have happened that day in Jerusalem had God died. Well, first of all, if God died, Jesus would have died, of course. Pilate would have died. Caiaphas would have died. Mary, watching it, would have died. John would have died. The disciples would have died. Not only everybody in Jerusalem, but everybody in the world would have died. It would have made 9/11 look like child's play. Had God perished in that moment, not only would every person in the world die, but the cross itself would vanish into oblivion, and the hill of Calvary upon which the cross was planted would have been vaporized. Jerusalem would have disappeared along with the rest of the world, the moon, the stars, and every planet, because everything that is in the universe lives and moves and has its being in the being of God, and if God's being ceases, everything's over. So please, to keep ourselves from thinking that, I suggest that when we sing this song, we just make one little change. Amazing love, how can it be that thou, my Lord, should die for me? Why would a creature hate a God who gives him every gift that he has, in whom he lives and moves and has his being, who gives him life itself? How would you hate the one who does that? Well, Edwards speculates on this, and he says that basically four things about God that human beings just can't stomach. The first thing they hate about God, we've already looked at, and it's this: God is holy, and we are not. And if there's anything unholy people hate with a passion, it's pure holiness. Go back to your high schools, go back to your colleges. When you had a very difficult test, and you didn't do very well on it, teacher passes out the grades. You look at your grades, 65, your neighbor gets 70, and the other person gets 54, and everywhere you look, everybody's making D's and F's, right? So what hope is now going to blossom in your soul? The teacher's going to do what? Grade on a curve. And then the teacher stands up and says, there are 30 people in this class, 29 people scored 71 or less. But Virginia Johnson, you scored 98 on this test. And I want to congratulate you because you've proven that I did not make this test too hard or unfair and all the rest. And so everyone else in the class gives Virginia a standing ovation. No. They hate her because she broke the curve. Who was it that hated Jesus most fiercely? But those who had been embraced as the paragons of virtue, the standards of human righteousness in their community. But they were phony. They were counterfeit. But nobody saw the counterfeit righteousness of the Pharisees until the genuine showed up. And when the real standard of holiness stood in their midst, they were gnashing their teeth. They couldn't stand it. They had to do away with him because by nature we hate the holiness of God. Well, what else do we hate? Edwards says, second thing we hate is God's omniscience. Why? Well, if God is holy and I'm unholy, Maybe I can get away with being unholy by confining my unholy behavior to those secret places in the darkness where God will never catch me. Like Adam and Eve, I'm going to hide in the bushes because I don't want God to look at me. I want God to overlook me. Jean-Paul Sartre used this image. He saw God as a cosmic voyeur looking through a peephole from heaven down upon us, making a list and checking it twice. Always we are beneath the gaze and scrutiny of God. And Sartre said, if we're always and everywhere under the gaze of this supernatural being, then we are being reduced to objects, not subjects. But it's the best of all possible news to God's redeemed. Could anything worse befall us than to have God stop being holy? Would anything be more destructive to us than if God suddenly lost his mind, lost his memory, forgot his promises that he made to our father Abraham and to the church of all ages? Any greater disaster than the Lord God omnipotent who reigns becomes the Lord God impotent who loses? No. The immutability of God is the rock of our souls and the anchor of our faith. Now the text. We've got 2 minutes left. All that was preface. Why did I choose this text? To eavesdrop on the Apostle Paul at the end of his ministry, at the end of his life, where he's writing to his beloved student Timothy. Timothy, I'm rotting in prison here. I'm ready to go. I'm going to be poured out like a drink, Arthur. It's okay. I've fought the good fight. I've finished the course. I've kept the faith. And I'm ready to be an oblation to the Lord. But it's cold where I am. I don't have much to read. Bring me the manuscripts. Bring me my coat if you would. Try to get here before winter. The hardest thing, Timothy, right now, from a human perspective, in my valedictorian speech, I'm lonely and I'm hurt. Because the guys I've worked with, the guys who were co-laborers with me in ministry, the guys who went on the battlefield with me, are gone. Timothy, be diligent to come to me quickly, because Demas has forsaken me. One of the things that was a highlight for me today was to see these men in the chaplain's corps who were up in front of us, and the prayers that we heard for those who have been sent into harm's way. Anyone who's been a soldier in battle knows that every battle brings surprises among the soldiers. Any theologian who's ever been in a controversy knows that every controversy, every issue, brings surprises. The people you counted on, the people you were sure before the bullets started to fly would be there valiantly, flee. And that corporal, that PFC, who you thought was kind of weak in boot camp, is a guy who throws himself on the hand grenade. Isn't that life? Isn't that true? Life's filled with surprises of who stands and who runs. Paul didn't expect Demas to run out on him. Check his name out in the rest of the New Testament, you see that he was a close co-worker with Paul. But Demas has forsaken me. Why? Because he loved this present world. And he's gone. Crescens is gone. Titus is gone. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark, bring him. Mark, the guy I fired, bring him back. Alexander did me much harm. May the Lord pay him according to his works. Woo. You better beware of him. And my first offense, listen to this, in my first offense, Paul says, no one stood with me. They all forsook me. Same thing that happened to Jesus. And he goes on to say this. May it not be charged against them. But here's where the immutability comes in. But the Lord stood with me. My friends left. My co-laborers bailed out. But Jesus showed up in my hour of need. Because he's the same yesterday, today, and forever.